So an absolute bombshell that no one saw coming. Um, First of all, there was Kawhi Leonard, signing with the LA Clippers. Now, to be fair, there really weren't many people who saw that coming. But the thing that no one saw coming, literally zero people, was Paul George being forcing himself out of Oklahoma City and going over to the Clippers. Because remember, he signed, I think, a 4-year extension just a year ago. So, he was at the party and he's like, I'm staying, I'm coming back. And so everyone's like, oh, okay, they're going to come back, run it back. But they've really had a lot of disappointing seasons. I mean, the past 3 seasons have been trash for the Thunder. Now, we'll give that first one, we'll give it a pass because, Russ was kind of by himself. But the next two, they just don't have any excuses, especially the third one. Getting gentlemen swept in the first round is unacceptable. It's embarrassing. You may as well not have even made the playoffs because you lost in 5 fucking games in the first round. That's unacceptable. So, here's a bit of insight as to what went on with this whole thing. Now, Ramona Shelburne writes some pretty good articles. When you read these kind of articles from these, these columnists, not only do you get some like good inside information, but you also get kind of perspective, and you kind of like paint a picture in your head. But let me read this to you guys. It says, the first sign that Kawhi Leonard has a whole lot more to say than anyone ever imagined came a few days before NBA free agency officially opened. Kevin Durant was getting ready to commit to the Brooklyn Nets along with his good friends Kyrie Irving and DeAndre Jordan. They'd all grown close in 2016 with the United States Olympic team and had talked often about playing with one another someday. All that remained was for free agency to officially open up on the evening of June 30th. Then Durant got a call from Kawhi Leonard, asking if he'd consider teaming up with him and signing with the LA Clippers. They'd be great complements to each other, Leonard told Durant. He'd always admired him and had tremendous respect for him as a competitor. Durant was flattered and more than a little stunned, according to sources close to the situation. He didn't know Leonard that well, so getting a recruiting call like that made a real impression. And while Durant followed through in his plan to play with Irving and Jordan in Brooklyn a few days later, the seeds of Friday's blockbuster night had been sown, which saw the Clippers secure a commitment from Leonard and trade for Oklahoma City forward Paul George. Since Leonard's ambition in trying to recruit Durant to the Clippers suggested he was serious about joining LA in free agency, but also just suggested that they needed to get him another star. Here it says, after the Clippers met with Leonard for approximately 3 hours at head coach Doc Rivers' house in Malibu on Monday night, both sides went to work to make that happen. At the same time he was meeting with the Los Angeles Lakers and Toronto Raptors this week, Leonard was meeting, calling, and texting with George, trying to convince him to find a way out of Oklahoma City. Like Durant, George was flattered by Leonard's recruiting. The two had a fair amount in common. They'd grown up in the Los Angeles area at about the same time. And it goes on to say, said one source close to George, for a quiet guy, he's a hell of a recruiter. So, there's a lot of interesting stuff here. So, what I think was most interesting of this to me was that Kawhi actually reached out to Kevin Durant. That was surprising to me because there were reports that Kawhi Leonard was still pissed off at Kevin Durant for calling him a system player, which ironically he was having an argument with someone on Twitter about basically Paul George versus Kawhi Leonard as to who's better. And he was basically saying, if you put Paul George on the Spurs, how well do you think you would be? So, in that system. So he's calling Kawhi a system player. And there were reports earlier this season that, no, they wouldn't want to play together because they dislike each other. But I guess the reports that he was trying to recruit him was actually true, which is surprising to me. It just really goes to show you how you can really never know what to expect. Because I certainly didn't expect that to happen. I had thought he was legitimately pissed at him and he didn't want to do that. But, and he says that both Durant and Paul George were flattered. I mean, shit, I would be too if in their shoes. Obviously, Kawhi Leonard, a 2-time champion, 2-time Finals MVP with 2 different teams, is recruiting you to go play in LA. That's a pretty flattering thing to happen and a shocking thing to say, obviously to say the least. Now, again, the thing that I think no one saw coming was Paul George being traded, demanding a trade and getting out of OKC to go to the Clippers. So this is just absolutely insane, and I can't believe this happened.